What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. This is an exciting one because this is my first classic Wrath of the Lich King video, and we're going to be doing a Resto Druid guide today. I decided to go with the Resto Druid. If you guys are familiar with my channel, you should be by now. I play a lot of Resto Druid on retail, so I'm going to be bringing this into classic, especially because I didn't see a lot of guides out there specifically geared towards PvP. So I want to get that for you guys. So today we're going to be going through some of the big changes, especially just some notes to come for if you are coming from retail. Big differences between the two spells, specifically go over some talent builds, two specifically, one more like a BG dungeon one that I'm going to use, and then secondly a arena based one that I'm going to use. The glyphs, stat priorities, and yeah, we're going to get right into it. So let's get going. So to start off the spells, okay, so a few spells I want to shine out here just so you guys are aware of the differences if you haven't played Wrath, coming from, a lot of this is same as TBC, but especially if you're coming from retail, just things to know. Okay, Rejuve is what it is. Let's start with that one. Rejuve is what it is, kind of just over time, heal over time. Nothing really special about that. No differences between retail or whatever. Not. Life Loom, huge difference if you do not play TBC. Life Loom is an enormous heal. Okay, it has three, you can stack it up to 3 times, and the heals essentially just triple up. And then it has a humongous bloom at the end, and the bloom is affected by the stacks. So if you have 1 stack, it's gonna do, I think in this case, it's 2K, 2 stacks 4K, 3 stacks 6K, so you guys get it. Reason that is important is be careful overlapping them, because sometimes you want it to, you know, you want your life loom to bloom and not fall the stack. It's like let's say it's about 2 seconds to fall off. Sometimes you want it to, depending on the situation, if they're taking high sustain, you want higher stacks. But if it's more like just topping off your team, and like let's say you're getting in to get ready to go for a push in for whatever reason, sometimes you want to let it fall off and then reapply, because that bloom is very important. So just kind of weighing out your situations there. If when do you need that heal? Like if they're really low, maybe you want to let it fall off and then reapply. Okay, regrowth, big difference in regrowth compared to retail. The heal itself is very good, very high mana cost, and the hot is actually very good and lasts a long time. So cases where you want to pre-hot a situation, like you're gonna pre-regrowth and then go in stealth just in case you get found in, you know, or found by a rogue, stuff like that. Regrowth the hot is very long, and it's a strong ability. Okay, like on retail, regrowth, the hot is completely useless. You basically just use it as like as if it's a healing touch. Healing touch, high mana cost. Virtually the only time I will be using this is with an NS. Other cases, you're probably going to be opting to go for Nourish. Okay, it is a very strong heal if you have the time. You just need to top yourself off and go behind a pillar. But you know, odds are you're really going to be using this with NS. Nature Swiftness, which is instant cast. Next, and then the last, or not the last one, the next one we'll go over is Nourish. So Nourish is new to Wrath compared to TBC. Nourish is a heal that is super, it is very mana efficient for what it does, and it also does 20% more if you have a hot on. So you never want to use this unless you're already hotted up. If you're not hotted up, you're probably better off going with like a regrowth or life blooming first. Also another note on life bloom, very expensive mana cost. So just be aware of, like, you know, don't be just triple hotting every single person. Like, it's gonna kill your mana. It's your most mana expensive ability outside of healing touch. Okay, going back to it, Nourish, really awesome thing about it is it's super fast cast. It's only 1.3, and if you spec into Nature's Grace, it has, when you crit, it goes even lower, closer to 1 second cast, and this is with like some blue gear on the beta. So this is like, you're gonna get way higher. It's gonna be about a 1 second cast. And then you stack, you know, that in coordination with Nature's Bounty, which is 20% increased crit. So you get that increased crit chance. With those crits are going to give you increased spells casting speed. So you'll see that these are extremely fast spell casts, about 1.0, it's 1.08 seconds. These are massive heals that you can get off. So this is kind of be your quick, big heal that you probably a very often spell you're going to be using. So, and then last one is Wild Growth. Wild Growth is a bit different, okay? It's an instant cast in Wrath. Okay, it is a instant cast. The heal is okay. The mana cost isn't that bad either, though, so gotta weigh your options, right? Wild Growth on retail, very expensive, decent heal. So in like a BG setting, this is awesome just to getting out, you know, heals on everybody. Just like I said, side note, it's not that mana, it's less than a Rejuve, I believe, or it's about the same. Oh, it's a little bit more than a Rejuve. It's less than a Life Bloom, though. And it's instant, though, so just keep that in mind. Okay, so, and then last two, we'll combine this, is we got cure, abolish poison and remove curse. So you still do not have a magic dispel in Wrath as a Resto Druid. You do have to dispel, you have two different types of dispels. So you have abolish poison, which you're always going to use. You're never going to use cure poison, because abolish is the same thing but better. It dispels one poison and then continuously dispels poisons every 3 seconds for a total of 4 times. So when you're, with a rogue, for example, you want to always use abolish poison. Anytime a rogue is on you or your partner, abolish poison, so that you can get rid of those poisons over time as they keep reapplying. And then secondly, remove curse. So your curse dispel is different. So if you have, I think Hex becomes a thing, if I'm not mistaken. Hex might become a thing for shamans. Otherwise, you have Curse of Exhaustion, Curse of Agony. All the curses going to be its own ability. So make sure you have a separate bind for that. And make sure you're always like I can't tell you how it's important it is, pre-abolish poison, like like if there's a rogue, you want to be in tree form because you can't get sapped in tree form, and you want to pre-abolish poison before they open, so that when they open, you're constantly taking off those poisons from them. It's really, really important. Outside of that, Tranquility, just want to note this goes through pillars, so just really, really strong heal against 8-minute cooldown, so just be aware. Very high mana cost as well, but it goes through pillars and LOS, so if you're like stuck behind a pillar, your partner's lining you, make sure to use that. All right, and that's kind of it for the heals that I want to go over. Now onto the talent builds. So I have 2 here that I want to go over that I kind of came up with. Again, this is my personal thing. This is maybe not the best thing. I don't know. We'll find out. Maybe we'll adapt. But this is what I've come up with from my experience. Is I'm going through this build. I'm not going to go through everything specifically. This video would be ridiculously long. You can look at these abilities on your own, but just a few ones that to point out that I went for. Like I said, Nature's Bounty for the increased crit, because if I'm combining that with Nature's Grace, you're going to get a lot of procs, a lot of quick casts off. Nature's Perfection, super, 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 super good for keeping yourself alive. This is if you're getting trained, virtually a passive 12% damage reduction, and combining this with all the other stuff that Resto Druid has, you need this, okay? And then another one to improve tree form is sometimes optional. In this build, I went for it because this is kind of like more like the BG dungeon spec healing, where you're going to be in tree form for a very large amount of time. So obviously you want to go for that. This is not a PvE spec, because PvE specs you'd probably want to take some different stuff, but this is what I went for. I went for Revitalize in this build as well, just because you actually going to use Wild Growth. So Wild Growth ticks, or your spells have 50% chance to restore mana or rage or runic power or energy, depending on who you use it on. So it's kind of like a universal like raid utility or group utility in like a BG or dungeon setting. Okay, this ability, guys, this improve bar skin. Let me just tell you, this game is unplayable without this. Okay, I played this. I played without it on the pre-patch. You will literally get obliterated. It's basically a 30%. I think it's more once you get full gear with this. It is virtually a 30%. You take 30% more damage from melee if you don't have this when you're out of form. So basically what it does is when you're in travel form and human form, you have a lot more armor, and makes bar skin 10% stronger, and reduces the chance that it's going to get purged by 70%. Let's just say it's mandatory if you're playing Resto. Leave it at that. Gifted in the Earth Mother is another awesome spell that you added on. 10% spell haste, 10% GCD reduction when you're life looming, so it makes you're able to triple life loom a lot quicker. And then obviously wild growth. So, and then I opted to go everything else in the balance tree. Genesis is 5% healing to all of your hots. I went for Nature's Magic just to go through these. This is just crit, is what it is, but another 4% crit onto Nourish on top of the 25 already. So it's really nice to have. Moonglow is super nice to have for mana regen. I think it's almost pretty important to have, because mana sometimes will become an issue in early Wrath until you get those later ICC trinkets. So getting mana reduction. Nature's Grace, like I said, when you crit heal or crit damage, so whether you're moonfiring somebody or nourishing or anything, but odds are it's going to be more regrowth than nourish, because they also have the increased crit chance. You're going to get that. Wow, of course I don't get a crit here for like 15 spells. This is insane. Okay, there we go. Get the increase by 20% spell haste, and you can use this for Cyclone as well. Another really good reason why to have this, so you can be able to get super fast clones off. If you see that I think you're gonna get a 1 second clone off. And then Nature's Splendor, just to get the increased duration on all of your hots, rejuve, regrowth by 6 seconds, and life bloom by 2 seconds. So that is what I went for in that. And when it comes to glyph on this build, these are not the right glyphs. This is the glyphs that I would go for this build are going to be Swift Mend, Innervate, and Bark Skin. Okay, you could maybe opt to go for Wild Growth if you want, but kind of tough. There's not some of these other glyphs are not the best, but these are the 3 that I would go with. Swiftmend, this is essentially a Verdant Infusion on retail where it doesn't consume your hot. Super, super nice to have. Barkskin, reduced the crit chance, so just making you more inherently tanky. With all this expansion is going to be very melee heavy, so just be ready for that. All the DKs and Rets and Warriors running at you, so anything to help you be a little bit more tanky is going to be awesome to have. All right, we're going over to the other spec here. So that was the more BG dungeon, like more general spec. This is my arena spec that I want to go over, that I'm going to be using. So everything is the same on the balance tree or the resto tree thing. Where it changes, I opted to take 1 out of Tree of Life because it was either going to be more regrowth crit or Tree of Life crit, or Tree of Life, which gives you the armor. To be honest, how I like to play, I always like to kite a lot, so I'm not in tree form all too much, so I didn't really opt to go for the crazy armor. Then again, if you don't take any in this, it feels bad because you're taking a tremendous amount of damage when you're in tree form versus being in non-form, so it kind of makes it not worth to use it. So this is kind of interchangeable. If you'd rather have a little bit more tankiness, you could take a point out of Nature's Bounty and put it here. Just for the increased crit. I just like playing around that Nature's Grace proc and having a lot of crit chance for it. Okay, and then going, obviously, like I said, you need Barkskin, and then I opted to go for 3 points into Earth Mother. I would love to max this out, but for the reason in balance, we couldn't max it out, so we got as much as we could. So when it comes to the balance side, we go for the Genesis, which is again your hots and your dots, do 5% more. Moonglow again, mana reduction, all of this stuff exactly the same as I just went over. Nature's Reach, this is a really, really good talent in arena because your cyclone range is increased. And try playing without this, it feels terrible because like the range, having range on clone is just so game changer sometimes. And then I went into 3 into Celestial Focus for the increased spell haste. I had 1 point left over. You can kind of change this stuff up a little bit. Some people take the 3 in Nature's Grace and go into Starlight Wrath and maybe put this point into here as well, so you have 4 out of 5 in Starlight Wrath and more casts. But my goal was to be more dot oriented, and then do the Resto Druid things, keep up your dots. That's about it. So I went to 1 into Improve Moonfire, and then the most important here is Insect Swarm. Okay, there is interchangeable. What you could do, what a lot of people do with this build, is take out these 3 in Gift of the Earth Mother, and they will opt to put it into Lunar Guidance. This is going to give you 12% more spell power based on your intellect. Give or take, it's at this current gear, I tested it out with this like honor gear essentially. It's about 90 more spell power than you would have had. It's kind of up to you what you want to go for. I personally think I'm going to go with the haste because it didn't seem like it was too game breaker change. The haste could sometimes be game breaker, having that much haste, because that's about, I think losing this, it's about 0.15 reduction on all of your casts, I want to say, give or take, this with a 6%. And you have a lot of spell haste when you combine both of these, 9. So that's just kind of what I opted to go for. When it comes to glyphs, Swiftmend, Moonfire, this one's kind of up in the air, whether I want to go for Moonfire or for Barkskin. And then finally, Insect Swarm. You need this. If you're going to run Insect Swarm, run this glyph. 30% increased damage is a no-brainer pick. So that's the one that I would go with, and that's an arrow. And like I said, you can kind of, this one's more interchangeable. If you're going to play this build, you can play Barkskin or Moonfire, depending on the situation or the composition that you're playing. But that's what I'm going to go for my talent builds. Next, I want to go over stat priority. I don't want to take this away from this content creator, but they put it perfectly, so I just want to use this as a resource. Warcraft Tavern, if you want to look this up, it's just Warcraft Tavern PvP guide. I wanted to make my own thing because some of the stuff I didn't really totally agree with, but when it comes to stat prio, this is what I used as a resource, so I'm gonna let it to you guys. So when it comes to stat priority, resilience, obviously, so anything that you could put resilience on, you're gonna want. Especially early on, these DKs and stuff are gonna be ripping you, so you gotta make sure you're tanky enough to survive. So any, the yellow gems and stuff like that, probably gonna go half and half Resil, and then spell power or whatever else you're gonna go for. Spell pen, need spell pen for resistances. You don't want to get resisted on clone, just as it says here. So the soft cap is 75. You could go for the absolute certainty of 130. That's including like Mark of the Wild resistances and like what other thing, racial resistances, but soft cap 75, so at least 75 you want to have. Hit rating 4%, another crucial thing. It is so miserable to miss on like a crucial ability like a cyclone or a root or maybe a bash. I don't think this is going to give you the hit rating on bash, but this is at least for the spells. And then after that, it's going to be spell power and MP5. So the gear, you're going to want MP5 gear as well as spirit. But when it comes to everything else, it's going to be spell power, Resil. That's like when it comes to gemming and enchanting, those are going to be your 2 priorities: spell pen and spell power and resilience, and that's after. Make sure you have these done. If your gear isn't giving you hit rating or spell pen, gem that until you have enough. Gem or enchant it until you have enough, because that is more important than the spell power. Resilience arguably even more important, but you know, if you're missing cyclones, you're going to be in a bad position and you could potentially just lose the game because you missed a clone. So you don't want that to happen. Okay, cool. And then last but not least, we're going to go for macros. I am personally not a big macro person. You could make so many more macros than I have, but just the stuff that I personally use, I'm like a big person of just having the button separately. I like the joy of like pressing every button individually. I'm kind of weird, but like it kind of makes it satisfying to myself. Cancel-form, you absolutely need this. Whatever druid spec you play, you need a cancel-form macro. I don't know if I have this bound. I do. Okay, so that's just going to shift you out on GCD. So when you shift into a form, you can shift out instantly. You're going to really want that for shifting slows, especially like DKs and stuff that are chains of icing you, and you're trying to just get around a corner or something like that. So you want to be able to shift out instantly whenever you can. Cyclone, focus cyclone / cast at focus cyclone, just to be able to focus clone people, you know, plain and simple. And this is for arena. I use / target party 1 / target party 2. You could go down the tunnel of mouse over macros, mouse over hibernate, mouse over cyclone. You can do arena party 1, I don't know, regrowth or nourish, and it's too much for me personally. I just macro it all. I just click all the buttons separately and change the target. Just be quick at the targeting, and then, you know, press the buttons as we need. So yeah, so shifting, super important. Make sure you guys have that stuff down. Outside of that, I think that's all we got for this one. I don't want to make it too much longer, but it just kind of give you guys a basis of what's going on. I appreciate if you guys did make it to the end of the video. In case, do like and subscribe. Please ask any questions you have. And again, I'm not an absolute expert on Wrath. I'm going to hopefully be one soon enough, but just coming from my experience so far, this is what I got, and I want to share it with you guys. So in case you want to join along on the journey. So appreciate you watching, and have a good day. Peace out.